Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing the Murderer. And today we are doing an update on one of the craziest cases out there. It is attached to the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, where she's referred to as the Doomsday Mom. Sadly, guys, they're accused of taking the lives of, well, her two children, her husband, and his wife. We are not going into those details here. You can check out my older videos. We're just going to go over an update. So, who are the kids? You had Tylee Ryan, who was her daughter, her biological daughter. JJ Vallow, her adopted son. Tammy Daybell, who was the wife of Chad Daybell. Then finally, Charles Vallow, the husband of Lori Vallow. The two have been arrested and charged with murder, conspiracy to murder, among a few other charges, which we're not going to go over. Now, we know that Lori Vallow was dealing with competency issues. That's been since her arrest. And there's another person that's been involved with this case, but he's no longer here. That would be Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox. He mysteriously passed away right before they were arrested and after the kids had disappeared. It was deemed natural causes, but a lot of people are speculating that that might not be the case because there are so many deaths that are so similar to the way Alex Cox passes away, including Tammy. So, and also, let's not forget about Joseph Ryan. That would be Lori Vallow's second husband, who is also no longer here. At the beginning of this case, it seemed that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were inseparable. They were each other's rock. But once Lori was arrested, she was dealing with competency issues. You could see Chad Daybell at first. His demeanor was he was not worried about things. He was smiling. And as time went on, well, you could see those demeanors change. Lori became a little bit more cocky, confident, and smiley. Whereas Chad Daybell, his demeanor switched quite a bit. He was more on the down. There were no more smiles, and he became more withdrawn. And so many people following this case knew there was something cooking between those two. Many of them were wondering whether it was they were, separating more or coming closer. Many of you, like myself, felt that they were going to separate. Things really started to change with Chad Daybell once a story aired with his kids being interviewed. And the kids were starting to make their dad look like a victim. They couldn't believe that their dad had something to do with their mom's passing. And those who follow this case know that the two kids were found in the backyard of Chad Daybell. Because Chad Daybell had been a grave digger for many years, the kids say, well, the way that the kids were disposed of in that backyard, well, it just didn't make sense, especially attaching it to their father, because he would know exactly how to better dispose of someone than what investigators discovered. Many of you have been suspecting a very long time that these two are going to have to turn on each other at one point. I mean, this is not a hand slap. These are death penalty cases. And here you have two very selfish individuals. And we know Lori's, how her personality works. We know that once she's pushed into a corner, well, she's going to come up with a plan to get out of that corner. Whether it sacrifices someone's life, their personality, it doesn't matter. We've noticed that Chad Daybell in court, his attorney has been kind of referring to Lori as Lori Vallow instead of Lori Daybell. That insinuates that Chad's okay with that because it's been said multiple times, as most of you are aware. And Lori doesn't deal with rejection very well. And she does not like to not lead. And everyone was trying to figure out, well, if we're right about her, what's her next step? Well, lately we have some new information coming out. There's some new motions that are kind of making some interesting headway, some very eye-catching titles for stories. And it's really the reporters that have been covering this from the beginning. It even has them, going, Let's go ahead and start with one of the last motions that's out there. What we're learning is that Lori Vallow's defense team has requested a confidential joint settlement and strategy sessions. This includes mediation, settlement proposals, what many people believe is Lori's attempt to either blackmail or even conspire with her husband. We also know that Chad Daybell's defense, they recently requested that they have an extension window to submit a questionnaire for the jury pool selection. But before that, they already had an extension on a questionnaire deadline, and it was granted by Judge Stephen Boyce on October 13th to January 9th. The judge actually denied that motion, he said the defense had ample time to prepare, and any delay at this point would cause unnecessary burden. So remember, they did have this scheduled at one point and had it postponed. Lori Vallow's case was stayed in mid-November and then later ordered for the stay to be lifted. So a lot of people, they weren't just paying attention to, the motions that were happening that day. A lot of people are paying attention to what Lori Vallow's hair and makeup or even clothes look like when she enters the court. Strangely, she had her hair done as if she walked out of a salon. Locks of curls surrounded her crown. They were finding out new information that, Lori Vallow might be talking just a little bit more. In fact, we're told that she's claiming that the children, their lives were taken in her brother's apartment in Rexburg, Idaho. Not only that, her defense, they're saying, Lori is not a major contributor to this crime. The lawyer stated that we don't believe that Lori actually participated in any of these events or that she even knew about them. She didn't anticipate them happening and certainly not a participant. Okay, guys, hold on. I know what you're doing or what you're feeling right now, and don't run to the bathroom right now. How in the world could she say this? If anything, let's pretend that she didn't know. But her and Chad are in Hawaii. Where does she think her kids are? They just disappeared? Vanished into thin air? And let's not forget that her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, witnesses have said multiple times that she deemed him a zombie. In fact, as far as we know at this time, there are more witnesses that heard her use that word than Chad Daybell. Not only that, we learned what zombie means. Once you become a zombie, that is the mark of death. And according to close friends of Lori, witnesses, they say that they hear her call both Tylee and JJ zombies, and that she was well aware that Alex Cox took JJ because he was acting like a zombie to his apartment. She was well aware that all of her kids' stuff was stuck in a storage and she had no plans to take them and use them ever again. So, I'm sorry to say, I really don't think this is going to work for her defense. They were really saying that Lori Vallow, they really don't think that she deserves the death penalty. We're hearing from reporters that were inside the courtroom that while in court, both her and Daybell together in the same room for the first time in a very long time, Lori attempted to make eye contact with her husband. However, they're saying that they witnessed that Chad Daybell not once glanced her direction, further confirming what a lot of people are thinking, and he's just trying to cut that tie with her. Now, we know that Chad Daybell is trying to push the court date out further and further, while Lori is trying to make it go quicker, supposedly. And we know, if you know, I know Lori, and this is my opinion, that she's going to do whatever she can to shake and rattle Chad Daybell. It's no longer the public or friends or witnesses she's concerned about. It's going to be Chad Daybell 100%. And she has to undermine him if he doesn't do what she wants him to do. And to me, this is where things are going to get interesting. Why do they want to have this mediation? Well, I think it's so that she can kind of put her, I gotta be careful how I say it, but you guys know she's gonna put her warnings on the table there, and she's doing her homework. And my question is her team gonna continue to work in her favor in that manner? And are they gonna be able to keep these two together? Are they gonna be able to trial them together? Because at this point, well, they're slowly but surely turning on one another. And don't you worry, guys, because Rob Wood argued that the state will, in fact, prove that Lori Vallow intended for her children and Tammy Daybell to die. Nate Eaton covered the story that he quoted him saying, quote, "I'm not going to get into the evidence of the case. Sufficient to say, a grand jury has found probable cause that she did commit these crimes," end quote. So what I'm thinking is, Pryor I think he's wanting to delay, because he knows that the evidence and the arguments are going to change for them simply because they have to watch Lori's move. John Pryor is smart enough to know that there's something Lori's going to throw their direction. He's not certain what it's going to be, but he's preparing. So right now, you got these defense attorneys, two of them sitting on the fence. They know something's about to blow. It's going to be interesting just to see how they deal with it and how the defense itself is going to start picking each other apart. Because one of the main pieces of evidence, I think Nate Eaton was 100% right when he wrote this in this article. You got to remember, Lori was actually collecting Social Security benefits between October 1st of 2019, January 22nd of 2020, knowing without a doubt that her kids were no longer on this earth by her side or in her care. And putting these families like Kay Woodcock and Larry Woodcock, let's talk about Brandon Boudreaux as well, they're going through hell. And man, how would you like to be the judge on this case? I mean, right now he's dealing with a circus. He has to take his steps very carefully. So we know that right now the dates have changed and changed and changed. But right now, the judge has said that the trial will be held in another county, Ada County, Idaho. Both Chad and Lori will be tried together, and that will be on April 3rd of 2023. So really, Lori's defense attorneys, well, they're wanting the judge to declare the death penalty unconstitutional in a case and take it off the table. Is there some kind of plea deal in the works, which I've already been suspicious about already? Prosecutors say that they have sufficient enough evidence against them where they had planned, to kill Lori's children and Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell. The defense, of course, well, they say that, Lori's defense team especially wants the prosecutor to explain why they believe that she qualifies for the death penalty. So they're just trying to nitpick and find out what exactly the prosecutors have against them. That's their job, while also communicating with Chad Daybell. I think this was an opportunity for Lori to attempt to get to Chad and get in his head. Not fact, that's opinion. She's beginning to rope people in. That's what she does. And it's what most of us expect. But prosecutors, they have very serious reservations about allowing these two to have any kind of meeting on the phone or in person for what they call strategy sessions. I'll read what the prosecutor said. They said, quote, "The state has serious reservations about allowing the co-defendants to have face-to-face or other communications directly with each other. The state recognizes that the defendants have agreed not to use any evidence or information they may obtain through any discussions or meetings against each other. Nevertheless, the state is not willing to make a similar agreement. Any communications between each individual defendant and his and her attorneys are confidential. However, having the other defendant and or her counsel present would make them potential witnesses of statements made by the other defendant and eliminate any claim to an attorney/client privilege." So you can't blame him for that. I mean, this is just, it's insane. What we did learn, though, was some more interesting evidence they found just recently in the crime lab: hair samples. They said it may be used to determine if there is sufficient DNA to create a DNA profile. According to court documents filed in July, it's likely that the hair came from duct tape inside the body bag used to transport the youngest JJ's remains. So I'm glad that prosecutors are still searching. They need everything that they can get against this woman who will throw everything but the kitchen sink at them, maybe even the kitchen sink. So it sounds like it's going to be consumptive testing again. Now, remember, Lori's attorneys, they got that media ban. That's why we're not getting as much media coverage, video in the courtroom. So each of these defense, we'll go over this more later. I was just kind of doing something quick today. Both Lori and Chad's defense, well, they're filing their own separate motions, and one of them being to having the jury sequestered when the trial begins in the spring. As you most likely already know, there are more additional hearings scheduled for February and March of this year to begin before April 3rd when trial begins. Now, I know you guys have thoughts, so share your thoughts below on what you can expect as we approach trial, because it's getting closer. They're finally getting backed into that corner. There's no more tape that they can kind of push through. Finally, the families involved with this case, they're going to get some closure. Finally, justice is approaching for Kay and Larry Woodcock. I'm so excited for them because it's going to be just bittersweet to see them get the last laugh. Real quick, another tip is, according to Lori's attorneys, well, Lori's not going to be heading the direction of mental illness when it comes to using it for defense. Of course, that's not unless they have to. So we've gotten subtle hints from these attorneys, Lori's attorneys. They're confident in the direction that they're going, and Chad's going to either go with it or we'll see. Look at this picture right here. Watch Chad's face. Look at that smile. For me, it's so incredible to see him go from that guy to the very humble, regretful person that he is in jail today. Now, for some reason, I went back to try to get the video because I was so busy today trying to make this video for you guys. When Lori left the courtroom, well, that's since disappeared and it's hard to come by. But I heard a lot of you actually watched that video before it disappeared. And most of the comments was the shock of how she had makeup and her hair, done. Well, guys, you got to remember, her honey, it doesn't seem to any longer want to hold her hand. She's very dependent on other people, so she has to find someone new. It's going to be interesting to know who she's working on now. That's my idea and opinion. And it takes a lot of ego to be charged with what you're charged with, accused with what you're accused with, behind bars. believing that you have a chance to still find someone that can pull you out of this. I want to say a few more shout outs before we end here to my girl Gail McNeil and her lovely family, Helen, Jimmy, Steph, Jean, Anna, Juanita, Janet, Green Fairy, Andrea, Kay, Brenda, Okie Dokie, CG, just to name a few of some of our best and most lovely people we have here on this channel. And I'll try to add new shout outs with each video. You guys have no idea how much I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for caring, guys, and I'll see you guys soon.